The silence in my apartment felt louder than their screaming ever had. My phone lay dark on the table, refusing to buzz with the usual demands. It was done. But how did it start? How did a life built on playing make-believe, as my dad put it, lead to this quiet devastation? It began so softly, a hairline fracture, then another, until the entire structure of our family lay shattered around me. Who are the morons paying him for that? Dad sneered about my job. The money stops now. I pressed send. 7 months later, my sister finally reached out. I never imagined I'd be the one to break us apart. I'm 28 years old, and I've been helping my family financially since I turned 20. Not that they ever really recognized it, least of all my father, Paul. The morning the world tilted began ordinarily enough. Sunlight slicing through the dusty blinds, the low drone of my computer's cooling fans, the cheerful notification sounds of tips from my late-night stream. Honestly, my success still felt unreal sometimes. 6 million followers across various sites, partnership deals with big names like Synapse Gaming and Novatech Peripherals, a nice apartment here in Denver. All because I played video games and chatted with people online who for some reason liked watching me. My father always called it goofing off for cash, something a teenager does, not a real profession. I glanced at my phone. 4 missed calls from my mother, Sarah. A text from my sister, Megan, asking about this month's support payment. Pretty standard stuff. My gut tightened. That old familiar twist of being valued only for my wallet, never just for being me, Leo. I pushed it down, turning instead to my regular morning tasks. Brewing coffee, sorting emails, mapping out content. The steady beat of my actual life. The one they refused to acknowledge. A new message alert broke my concentration. It was from David, one of my longest viewing fans and now a channel moderator. Leo, you gotta see this. Right away, a link was attached. My pulse jumped as I clicked it. What now? I wondered. Account warning. Some online drama? The typical worries of anyone making a living online raced through my thoughts. Nothing could have braced me for what appeared on the screen. My father's voice hit first, loud and mocking. He sits clicking away on those games all day like a kid, and people actually give him money? What kind of fools throw cash at someone playing games? The video showed my mother's kitchen, our childhood home. My sister Megan was filming secretly, maybe from the hall entrance. My father sat at the kitchen table with my mother. Both were chuckling. Well, at least he's useful for something, my father went on. His little internet thing pays our bills. My mother nudged his arm, a pretend reprimand. Paul, be nice. He works hard. But her smile was there. That smile that never quite crinkled her eyes when she defended me. My sister's voice from behind the camera piped up. Dad, tell us that story again about how Leo pretends he has a grown-up job? More laughter echoed. Then my father did his impression of me. Hunched over, wildly clicking an invisible mouse, making silly game noises. Dada, look at me! I'm a famous streamer. Super important. Meanwhile, I've never put in a decent day's work. The video dragged on for 3 agonizing minutes, every second searing itself into my brain. The family I supported, the ones I helped emotionally, openly ridiculing the very source of income that kept them comfortable. Megan had posted it on her personal social media page, which already had 25,000 views, adding the caption, "When your brother actually thinks streaming is a career path, LOL." My hands started shaking, blood roaring in my ears. Then oddly, a profound calm washed over me, cold and heavy. 8 years. 8 years I'd supported them. Monthly payments, covering their car loans, funding Megan's art school tuition, paying for unexpected medical costs, helping with the kitchen remodel, that trip to Hawaii, all while swallowing their barely hidden disdain for how I earned a living. Deep down, I suppose I always knew how they felt. But seeing it laid bare like this, shared for strangers to mock, something inside me fractured beyond repair. My phone buzzed again. It was my mother. Leo, sweetie, wondering when we might see this month's transfer? Your dad and I are thinking about that Caribbean cruise we mentioned. The one they'd brought up casually, the one I'd never agreed to pay for. The sheer assumption cut like glass. I put the phone face down, letting it vibrate until it stopped. What had I been to them all these years? An ATM with a pulse? A utility to be switched on when needed, while being laughed at behind my back? And now it seemed right out in the open? Something solidified inside me, hard and clear as ice. Enough. I opened my banking app, looked at the joint emergency fund I'd set up for them. $92,000. My earnings. Every bit of it. I transferred the entire amount to my personal savings account. Then I typed a short email, attached the link to Megan's video, and added one sentence. There will be no more transfers. Ever. I hit send, silenced all notifications, went out onto my balcony, and breathed the cool morning air, feeling like I'd finally broken the surface after being held underwater. For the first time in what felt like forever, a sense of peace settled over me. The backlash I knew was inevitable. A storm was brewing, but in that moment of stark clarity, I grasped something that had always been just out of reach. I didn't require their validation. I never had. They were the ones who needed my money, not the other way around. The understanding filled me with a strange, almost empty sense of power. Within minutes of sending that email, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Calls, texts, voicemails pouring in. I ignored every single one. That evening, I went live on my stream as planned. I smiled, chatted with my viewers, played the game, giving no hint of the family implosion happening silently in my inbox. This world, this community, this was mine. They weren't welcome here anymore. 3 days passed in a weird sort of quiet tension. I blocked their numbers after the first barrage, changed my primary email address, and told my building's front desk not to let any family members up without my explicit permission. On the fourth day, the intercom buzzed, sharp, angry bursts. "Mr. Thompson, your father is downstairs. He seems quite upset. Should I permit him access?" My heart pounded against my ribs, my instinct screamed to hide. But I was finished running. "Yes, please send him up." The time waiting for the elevator felt endless, each thump of my heart marking the seconds, the rush of blood loud in my ears. Then came the knock, 3 heavy raps that seemed to vibrate the door itself. When I opened it, my father stood there, his face flushed with that familiar rage, the look I'd shrunk from countless times growing up. "What in God's name do you think you're doing?" He barged past me into my apartment without waiting to be invited. I shut the door softly behind him, keeping my composure. "Nice to see you too, Dad." He whirled around, pointing a finger near my face. "Don't you dare get sarcastic with me. What is this garbage about cutting us off? Your mother is falling apart." "I saw the video, Dad." His expression shifted, first confusion, then a flicker of recognition, quickly followed by dismissal. That was nothing. Megan messing around, you know how she is. A joke. My chest felt tight. The casual way he waved it off, like it meant nothing, cracked something else inside me. "A joke, huh?" My voice sounded distant, unnervingly calm even to me. "And the 25,000 people who watched it? Were they all in on this joke too?" He waved his hand again, impatient. "Don't be so overly sensitive. That's the trouble with your generation. Always looking for something to be offended by, turning everything into some big trauma. You mocked my job, my life. The very thing that's been paying your bills for 8 years. "Oh, give me a break," he scoffed. "You sit around playing games all day. It's hardly work. I'm one of the highest earners in this field. I build a business that supports not only me, but also an entire family that offers zero support in return." His face grew darker. "We are your family. That's the deal. Family helps family. Help goes both ways, Dad. When was the last time you actually supported me?" He hesitated for a heartbeat, just long enough for the unspoken truth to hang in the air. "We gave you a home for 18 years. I actually laughed. I couldn't stop myself. The legal minimum requirement for parents. And I've been paying back that basic duty tenfold ever since I left home. So what's the deal now? You think you're too good for us? Think you don't need your family now that you have all your little internet buddies?" The venom in his voice when he spat out "internet buddies" struck a familiar chord. But this time, instead of shame, cold anger solidified within me. "Those internet buddies have treated me with more kindness and respect than you ever have." His eyes narrowed into slits. "So that's how it is? You're picking them over your own flesh and blood?" "I'm picking myself. Finally." He just stared, like I'd suddenly switched to a foreign language. The idea seemed utterly alien to him. "What about the cruise your mother wanted? We already paid the deposit." The breathtaking entitlement almost made me gasp. "That's not my concern anymore." He sputtered, losing control. "We're your parents, and I'm your son, not your personal ATM." We stood locked in the heavy silence that followed, 2 men sharing DNA who suddenly saw each other as complete strangers. His expression shifted again, the raw anger giving way to calculation, something more strategic flickering behind his eyes. "Your mother is going to be heartbroken. Is that what you want? To shatter her world? The classic guilt trip, his go-to weapon from my childhood. But this time it glanced off me, finding no weak spot. Mom will manage once she accepts she needs to live within a budget like everyone else. And Megan? What about her tuition fees for next semester? Megan is 25 years old with a bachelor's degree. If she wants to pursue a master's, she can apply for student loans like the rest of the world. His composure finally cracked, desperation showing through. You can't just abandon us. We have bills, responsibilities. So does everybody. Maybe get a job. The words hung there, simple, blunt, and completely demolishing the power dynamic we'd lived with for years. My father's face twisted with fury. You ungrateful little brat. After all we've provided for you. What exactly have you provided for me, Dad? Tell me one thing in the last 8 years. He opened his mouth, snapped it shut, then opened it again. Silence. And in that void lay the stark reality of our connection, clearer than it had ever been. I think it's time for you to leave. This isn't finished, he snarled, heading for the door. Yum, you'll live to regret this. Family means everything. No, respecting yourself means everything. I wish I'd figured that out much earlier. The door slammed behind him, hard enough to make the pictures on my wall tremble. I stood perfectly still in the abrupt quiet of my apartment, bracing for the inevitable wave of guilt. It never came. Instead, an unexpected lightness bloomed in my chest, as if a massive weight I'd carried for years had finally been lifted. I walked over to my computer, sat down, and looked at the streaming setup that had become my livelihood, the life they had ridiculed so thoroughly. For the very first time, I felt zero need to defend it to anyone. I started my stream earlier than usual that night. My community noticed right away that something was different. The chat filled with comments. You seem off tonight, Leo. Everything okay? I thought about brushing it off, keeping my private life private as always. But something fundamental had changed inside me. I made a significant decision today, I told them. Drew some lines that needed drawing a long time ago. It feels right. Support flooded the chat. No prying questions, no demands for gossip, genuine encouragement from thousands of viewers who chose to be there with me. My true family, I realized in so many ways. 4 weeks went by. The silence from my blood relations was a strange mix of pain and relief, like a deep infection finally getting air after being hidden under a bandage for too long. Megan reached out once, demanding money for tuition rather than asking. When I didn't reply, she fired off a series of increasingly bitter texts, accusing me of abandoning them. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to discuss. Then came the alert. A small, almost trivial notification from my bank about suspicious activity on the emergency account I'd forgotten to fully close. My parents had found a way in, withdrawn the couple $100 that had built up from some old automatic deposit, and cleaned it out. It was the final sad confirmation that cutting them off had been the correct move. I closed the account for good, severing the last financial thread. My mother called from a blocked number that evening. I almost let it go to voicemail. Something made me answer. Leo, please don't hang up. Her voice sounded diminished, vulnerable in a way I'd never heard. I'm here, Mom. A beat of silence. We could use your help. Your father, he's too stubborn to say anything, but things are challenging right now. My chest clenched, that old loyalty stirring despite everything. This was my mom, the woman who'd tucked me in at night, kissed my scraped knees better, and yet also stood by silently while my father chipped away at my self-worth for years. I'm sorry to hear things are tough, I replied carefully. But I told you, I can't help financially anymore. But Leo, we're family. The familiar argument, the built-in expectation. Family supports each other, Mom. They respect each other's lives. They don't mock each other on the internet for laughs. She let out a long sigh. That video was wrong. Megan understands that now. Did she take it down? Another pause. Well, not exactly, but then it wasn't just a mistake, Mom. It was a deliberate choice. And choices have consequences. Leo, please. We're finding it hard. We need you. The words I'd craved hearing for so long, an admission of my value, but still tied only to my bank balance, not to me as a person. I'm sorry, Mom. Truly, I am. But I can't keep doing this. Her tone shifted, the vulnerability vanishing, replaced by a hint of steel. So this is it? All those years of family connection tossed aside because of one silly video? It was never just about the video. It was about what the video showed me, what it proved about how you all see me. That isn't fair. Neither was treating me like a cash machine while laughing at the job that paid for your lifestyle. The silence stretched again, a vast canyon between us, impossible to fill with empty words. I'll always be your son, I said quietly. But the financial help has ended. For good, I heard her take a sharp breath. Your father was right about you. All that internet stuff changed you. No, Mom. It just showed me what I was worth when my own family wouldn't. I ended the call, placed the phone down softly, and waited again for the guilt. Still nothing. 11 months drifted by. The seasons turned outside my Denver window. My career continued to climb. One of the biggest streaming platforms offered me an exclusive contract worth more money than I'd ever dreamed of. The irony hit me hard. The goofing off job had set me up financially for life. I bought a small house outside the city, adopted a rescue dog, and slowly pieced together a life that felt truly mine. The gap where my family used to be still existed, of course. It ached sometimes during holidays, on my birthday, or just on a random quiet evening when a childhood memory surfaced. But the wound was finally healing, clean and slow, free from the bitterness that had poisoned it for so long. Megan reached out again, sending a message that was surprisingly apologetic, acknowledging her role in the whole mess. Not a full apology, maybe, but closer than I ever anticipated. I miss having a brother, she typed. Posting that video was dumb and hurtful. I was envious of your success and just wanted Dad's attention. I'm sorry. I replied cautiously, thanking her for the message, suggesting maybe we could grab coffee sometime in the future. No mention of money, no hint of sliding back into the old ways. Just a tiny hesitant step toward building something different, maybe something healthier. My parents stayed silent. Too much pride, perhaps, or just unable to cope with the new reality where their son wasn't their safety net anymore. I realized I could live with that lack of closure. Their silence hurt far less than their presence used to. The biggest transformation, though, was internal. That constant craving for approval, from them, from my audience, from anyone, had faded significantly. I streamed because I loved it, interacted with my viewers because I valued them, created content because it felt meaningful, not because I needed to prove anything to a father who was never going to get it anyway. Then exactly 11 months after I'd cut the cord, a small padded envelope arrived. No return address, but the postmark was from my old hometown. Inside was a USB drive and a short note in my mother's familiar cursive. I thought you deserved to see this. I'm sorry it took me so long to finally understand. My hands shook a little as I plugged in the drive and clicked on the single video file. It showed my father, Paul, sitting by himself at the kitchen table. He looked older, somehow smaller. Leo, I don't know if this will ever reach you, he started, his voice gravelly. Your mother insisted I record this. Thought maybe someday you'd be willing to listen. He cleared his throat, looking straight into the camera lens with an intensity that tightened my chest. I was wrong about you, son. Wrong about your career choice. Wrong about, well, about a lot. He raked a hand through his graying hair, a familiar gesture that made my heart squeeze. The honest truth is, I never got what you were doing. I was jealous, plain and simple. Jealous you found something you were passionate about and made it work, while I dragged myself to a job I despised for 35 years. His eyes looked suspiciously bright, something I'd never witnessed. And I took it out on you. Made you feel inadequate because I felt inadequate. Benefited from your success while putting down how you got there. That wasn't fair. It was cruel. He swallowed a visible effort. I'm not asking you for money. Not even asking you to forgive me. I needed you to know that I see it now. I was wrong. And I am truly sorry. The video clip ended. No fanfare, no dramatic fade out. Just my father's face, exposed and vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. I sat there in the quiet of my home office, the same space where I'd watched Megan's video that severed our ties, now watching this one that offered a fragile possibility of healing. It couldn't erase the past or pretend the hurt didn't happen, but it acknowledged it, owned it, took responsibility. I didn't reply right away. Some injuries need more time even after the apology arrives. But I kept the video file. And for the first time in over a year, I let myself recall some of the good memories too. Learning to ride my bike, his awkward pride at my high school graduation, small moments of kindness buried under years of harsh words, not enough to undo the damage, but maybe enough to consider that people, even parents, can learn, can face their mistakes, can maybe even change. I still don't know if we can ever fully mend what was broken. Some breaks leave scars that never fade. But sitting here now, about a year and 4 months after that awful morning, I understand something crucial. Cutting them off wasn't about revenge. It was about finally valuing myself enough to insist on being treated with basic respect. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and maybe even for others, is to draw firm lines that cannot be crossed. To declare, this is me. This is what I will accept, and this is what I absolutely won't. My career keeps growing, my online community thrives, and the life I'm building feels more real and stable every day. And if down the road that life has room for a version of my family, a version that respects Leo, the person, not just Leo, the provider, then maybe I'll be open to exploring that. But I will never, ever make myself smaller to fit their expectations again. I won't pay for my own belittlement. That version of me is gone for good. In his place is someone stronger, someone who finally gets that real family, whether by blood or by choice, builds you up instead of tearing you down. And that truth was worth every painful step it took to finally learn it.